All right, welcome back everybody to the deep dive. We're gonna be diving into a pretty fascinating topic today.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I we don't often think about this kind of stuff, but today it's learning management systems, LMS.
LMS, everyone's favorite acronym.
Right. But what we're really talking about is LMS in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, and in oil and gas, it's not just your typical online training.
Definitely not. I mean, you think oil and gas, you think massive infrastructure projects, complicated engineering, global scale.
Exactly. High stakes, dangerous environments, tons of regulations.
Right. Huge companies. So how does software even fit into all that? I mean, it almost seems counterintuitive, right?
It does. That's what we're here to unpack. It's actually more critical than you might think.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So uh, maybe just for context for some of our listeners, could you break it down for us? Like, what is an LMS and how does it actually work? Especially in the oil and gas world.
Sure, sure. Well, an LMS, it's basically like, think of it as a central hub for all things training and development, but specifically for oil and gas, it goes way beyond that.
Okay.
So you've got these companies, right? They have employees all over the world, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people working on rigs, pipelines, refineries, you name it.
Yeah, it's a huge global workforce. I hadn't really thought of it like that before.
Oh, yeah, it's massive. And
Yeah.
they all need to be on the same page when it comes to things like safety protocols, operating procedures, environmental regulations, all that.
Wow. Yeah, the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, one mistake could have huge consequences, right?
Absolutely. That's why having a standardized system like a LMS is so vital. It allows these companies to create and deliver the same high-quality training materials to every single employee, no matter where they are.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about efficiency. It's also about making sure everyone has the same level of knowledge and skill.
Exactly. Consistency is key in an industry like this. You need everyone operating at the same high standard.
That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned regulations earlier. I know that oil and gas is probably one of the most heavily regulated industries out there, right?
Oh, yeah, it's up there. You've got
Yeah.
environmental regulations, safety regulations, all kinds of compliance requirements, and it can be a real headache for companies to keep track of it all.
So how does LMS help with that?
Well, it basically acts as it's like a built-in compliance tracker. It can keep records of employee certifications, training completion dates, all that stuff.
So it's almost like a safety net for the company, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It helps them demonstrate to regulators that their workforce is properly trained and that they're meeting all the necessary requirements.
Okay, this is all starting to click now. So it's about consistency, it's about compliance, it's about making sure everyone's up to speed on the latest procedures. But I'm also kind of curious how this actually plays out in the real world.
Right, good point. It's not just theoretical, it's actually making a difference out there on rigs and refineries and pipelines all over the place.
Yeah, can you give us an example?
Okay, so let's say you've got a new safety procedure for handling a certain chemical, right?
Hmm.
In the past, you might have had to fly a trainer out to every single rig or facility to teach this new procedure in person.
Which would be incredibly expensive and time consuming.
Exactly. But with an LMS, you can turn that procedure into a training module that everyone can access online.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
So the workers can do the training on their own time at their own pace, and you can be sure that everyone's getting the same information.
It really bridges the gap between, the corporate office and the people out there in the field.
Absolutely. And it can even help with troubleshooting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so imagine a piece of equipment malfunctions on an offshore rig.
Yep.
You're hundreds of miles from shore.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It could be, but if they have access to an LMS, they can pull up troubleshooting guides, videos, diagrams, all that stuff right there on their tablet or computer.
So it's like having an expert right there with them, even if they're in the middle of the ocean.
Pretty much, it empowers those workers to solve problems on their own, which can save a lot of time and money and potentially even prevent a dangerous situation.
This is really fascinating. I have to admit, when we first decided to do this deep dive on LMS, I thought it was going to be pretty dry.
Yeah, I get that. Most people think of it as just corporate training stuff.
But it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's really about uh, It's about safety. It's about efficiency. It's about empowering workers to be more knowledgeable and self-sufficient.
Right. And it's only going to become more important as the industry evolves.
How so?
Well, you've got new technologies emerging all the time. You've got increasing pressure to reduce environmental impact. You've got a global workforce that needs to be constantly upskilled.
So LMS is like a key tool for navigating all those challenges.
Exactly. It's about making sure that the oil and gas industry can continue to operate safely, efficiently, and responsibly in the years to come.
Well, I think you've definitely given us a lot to think about today. It's pretty amazing how something like an LMS can have such a huge impact, not just in oil and gas, but probably in a lot of different industries, right?
Yeah,
It
definitely.
makes you realize that technology isn't just about gadgets and apps. It's really about solving real-world problems and making people's lives better.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, thanks for joining us today on this deep dive into LMS and the oil and gas industry. And for all of you listening out there, I'd encourage you to think about how technology is being used in your own field. You might be surprised at what you discover.
That's great advice. Keep learning, everyone.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.